USAA knows dynamic duos can save the day, like superheroes and sidekicks or auto and home insurance. With USAA, you can bundle your auto and home and save up to 10%. Learn more and get a quote at usaa.com/bundle. Restrictions apply.
Whatever the occasion, effortless elegance is right this way. Because Hilton brings you new ways to stay courtesy of the Nomad London. And it doesn't stop at award-winning dining in a space draped in velvet and illuminated by vintage chandeliers. No, this day goes beyond with unparalleled personalized service and attentive hospitality. Oh, and did we mention the Nomad London can be booked using your Hilton Honors points at Hilton.com? Hilton, for this day.
The Dental Download podcast is your source for insight from conversations with fellow dentists, specialists, and leaders in the industry. With new episodes every Monday morning, I'm your host, Dr. Haley. Let's get into this week's episode. All right, everyone, I have a really exciting guest here today. Not yet a dentist, but soon to be. Paige is here and she is starting dental school soon. So we're going to be talking about her application cycle. I know that application time is right around the corner for any pre-dentals applying this upcoming cycle. So I really wanted to bring Paige on to be able to kind of talk about this past year and her experience with applying to dental school. So hi, Paige. Hello. Could you just give us a little background about your kind of journey in dentistry so far? Anything fun you want our audience to know?
Yeah, as she said, now I'm an incoming dental student. I am a senior right now at Arizona State University, so I'm actually about to graduate next week. I'm in the midst of finals and everything, so that's exciting. But I've lived in Arizona most of my life. I'm originally from Minnesota, the Midwest, but I'm probably going to be staying in the sunshine in Arizona. I have pretty much been like living, breathing everything pre-dental application this whole year. So it's kind of crazy just to be on the other side and to be able to actually share a piece of my advice, because I feel like I was so lost and had so many questions when I was going through it. So it's really nice that you have this platform that you're able to kind of share and help people out along the way.
Thank you for that. And again, we're very grateful to have Paige here to give us kind of a fresh perspective, because I applied back, what would it be? It would have been 2019. So it's a long time ago at this point. So I'm interested to hear if things are still pretty much the same or if there's anything different. But we're just going to get right into unpacking your pre-dental journey and advice to people applying this cycle. So the first thing people like to ask about the DAT. So tell us about your experience with the DAT.
Yeah, so the DAT, that's kind of a beast, but I took mine. I ended up doing it while I was applying. I did it the summer between junior and senior year. I originally bought, I used DAT Bootcamp, which I loved. I bought the program in December, the winter break of my junior year, with the idea that I would study during the semester and take it right before finals. I thought that I would be able to kind of balance the school and the studying, and I quickly realized I could not. It was too much to try to maintain A's and keep my grades in undergrad while I was trying to study for it. So I ended up pushing back my DAT to summer and thought, after my last final, I'm just going to hit the books, treat it like a full-time job, and study, like 8-10 hours a day. And that's just what I did. So I took my last final, like the second week of May, and then I studied all day, pretty much every day. I took a week break. I did a family vacation, which was a really nice getaway. And I took it July 13th. So I studied like 2-ish months, but I honestly don't think I would regret it, I would recommend doing it. I kind of regret doing it because it was really stressful to try to do the application and the DAT at the same time. And I felt like I had to get such a good score because I was applying that summer, and it just was a lot on my plate. So if I could go back, I wish I would have taken it the summer of my sophomore year, between sophomore and junior, and then had that score and then just been able to focus on applications that summer. So that's definitely what I wish I would have done.
That's what I did, but the con of it is just you're not as far along in your degree program yet, so you probably have to like self-teach some more subjects. So I wouldn't have taken like anatomy and and physiology and all of those yet. So I had to kind of self-teach a lot of the sciences with DAT Bootcamp. But overall, I agree, it was not as stressful because they were two separate entities. Like DAT was its own season of life and then application was its own season. So I can imagine that was a lot on your plate. But hey, I mean, you lived to tell the tale. You made it through.
Mhm.
Did you feel like DAT bootcamp was a good resource? Were your real test scores pretty accurate to your practice test scores?
Yeah, for sure. I really loved DAT boot camp. I found the videos to be super helpful because I felt like through my undergrad classes, I still needed a lot more. I didn't remember a ton from my freshman, sophomore year. So all the videos and lessons they had on there were so helpful. And I think the practice tests were pretty representative of my actual test. I ended up buying the extended version of boot camp, so you get extra practice tests with that version. And I would say on most my scores, I averaged the exact same on DAT bootcamp than my actual score on the DAT. So it was pretty representative, I would say.
So this is good. See, it's been 6 years, but it's the same as it was for me for the DAT. Boot camp is still the best. I also used boot camp for my boards in dental school too. They have a program for that. So it'll come back to you someday.
At least I'll be familiar with the layout.
Exactly. So a little bit more about the actual application portion now. So people love to know kind of how did you get your shadowing hours? What other experiences did you have on your application that you feel helped represent you well to dental schools?
Yeah, one thing that I was really involved in was the pre-dental club on campus. I would say if anyone has that at their college, definitely join it. It's such a good resource. I actually held a position in my club. I held the position of Operation Toothbrush Lead, which it's kind of a unique thing to ASU. I'm sure probably other schools have programs like it, but it's where we go to Title I elementary schools or homeless shelters or like Boys and Girls Club, just areas that are more underdeserved. And we help teach the kids about oral health. And we bring a bunch of fun games like dental bingo, and we do stuff like putting a little plaque mixture on a little tooth, and then they practice brushing it off, and then give them little goodie bags with a toothbrush, floss, toothpaste, and a little timer to time themselves. And I did that for a while, and honestly, it was really fulfilling. It was an amazing thing to be able to talk about in interviews and applications. And then aside from that, I did a lot of volunteering. I volunteered at a refugee and immigrant dental clinic in our area, which was really nice. If I would say with volunteering, your hours don't necessarily need to be dental related. I would say it's great if they are, but if you like dogs or animals, I would say go to your local animal shelter, do just something to show that you care about giving back to the community. And then let's see, in terms of shadowing, I shadowed my pediatric dentist, which was a really good resource, and then general dentist, which I connected through the pre-dental club. I think that's a good way if you have the club that hosts people to go up to them after and, ask them. That's a good way to get contacts, because I did get a bunch of no's from doing cold calls trying to ask to shadow. So, that is kind of hard. But I would say getting most of your shadowing in general is great. And then if you have extra, I really enjoyed doing like pediatric and ortho. I actually interned in an ortho office for one summer, which was an amazing experience. So any time where you can shadow and then even get more hands-on, I think that really solidified that I wanted to go in the profession and stuff. So just doing stuff like that, reaching out, pre-dental, contacting people, like emailing any way you can to try to get in touch with dentists. Because I know it can be hard to get a yes sometimes.
Exactly what you said. It means a lot more if you had a face-to-face connection. So going up to people after they speak at those meetings is huge. Or even maybe they don't have space for a shadow, but their friend does at another office and they can personally recommend you. It's much easier to get a yes, especially I'm sure if you're trying to shadow near your college campus, there's all the other pre-dents that want to. So it gets a little bit competitive. Did you do some of your shadowing back home, or was it all near your college campus?
I did most of mine near my college campus here in Arizona. It was just more convenient. I feel like it was really hard, especially with your Monday through Friday classes. It's the same working hours as most dentists. So I did most of them here during summer and winter break. I feel like that was the time I did it the most too, which was just the easiest.
Gotcha. So you kind of sacrificed going home at those times to stay in Arizona and work on all your pre-dental stuff. But sounds like you also love the sunshine. So it probably was still nice to be vacationing from school in an area that's so pretty and warm compared to the Midwest, which I understand because I'm up in Michigan, so I get it.
For sure.
Do you have any other advice when it comes to those extras on your application? Like, did you do any research, or were there experiences that you started and didn't end up following through with because they just didn't seem like they suited you? How did you kind of decide what you wanted to really dedicate your time to?
Yeah, I did a little bit of research actually my sophomore year. I worked as a research assistant, and I was lucky enough to get an opportunity at a virtual lab, so I didn't actually have to go into any wet lab of some sort. We were doing cognitive memory assessments on individuals that were experiencing memory decline, and were elder and obese, and we were doing trials with intermittent fasting, so that was really interesting. And I also used that research for my honors thesis in college, so that was just something. And I did put all of that on my application because it did teach me a lot about just research and working with other people. And then I think just the biggest thing was the Operation Toothbrush and my volunteering with the pre-dental. I feel like I dedicated most of my time to that because it was just something that I was passionate about and actually enjoyed doing. Because I feel like a lot of times volunteering, some people are just doing it to get those hours on their application, or they're just not actually passionate about what they're doing. I would try to think of anything I did that I feel like most things I chose not really to put myself in a place that I wasn't really going to like. But if you are, just keep trying. I would say like the dog shelter things, like volunteering like that sense. I know one of my friends used to coach like the high school volleyball games or something. Just volunteering your time anywhere, I think is really good.
I totally agree with that. And it'll be easier to make yourself go to the volunteering. Yeah. Sorry. It'll be easier to make yourself go to the volunteering if you actually at least are passionate behind it. Because I remember it's so weird because dental school, you're busy like 7:30 to 5:30 every day, Monday through Friday. Then I remember like my undergrad class schedule, you'd have like 2 or 3 classes a day and then all this like time off. And I look back and I'm like, what was so busy? Like you had all this time. But I remember I was constantly doing stuff, and fitting in time to go do the volunteering when you're fatigued from studying or things like that is hard. So it's a lot easier when you actually care about the thing you're doing, and that can make you show up.
For sure.
So the last couple things on the application itself: personal statement, letters of recommendation. So starting with personal statement, what advice do you have for people when they are putting that together?
So what I did is like months before the application even opened, I opened a notes app on my phone, and I put down any idea I had anytime. Like I would sometimes be like, oh, I really want to mention this, or just any key details. Sometimes it would literally just be one word that I know I wanted to mention, or a closing statement, or an idea of an introduction. And after a couple months, I had this whole entire page of just ideas and bullet points that I knew I wanted to touch on. And it was a lot easier when I got to finally making my first draft, my personal statement. I kind of had a very loose layout of the flow. And then I think just by making it, everyone will probably have multiple drafts. I think I talked to someone who had 19 drafts once, and I was like, it's a hard paper. It's really hard to get all of your thoughts and your one why onto one page. So I think just starting the ideas soon. Don't try to cram the paper in one day. And then I think in terms of final revisions, I reached out to people that didn't know me, some dentists, dental students, maybe people I just had one brief interaction with, and asked them to review my paper because I really wanted to see if my story would come across to someone who had no idea who I was or no idea why I wanted to go into dentistry. And I think that feedback was the most essential to me, so I could see if my point was really getting across. And then also my pre-health advisor at my school, there's an asynchronous way that they're able to look at your paper and just kind of give you feedback on it. I thought that was really helpful. And then I think it's important also not just to lose your own voice. If you get too much feedback, you kind of can just not know where to go, not know what edits are right or not. So just trying to maintain your true tone of the paper at the very end. But it's definitely a tough one to write.
And only if you're comfortable sharing, but what was kind of the premise of your personal statement, your why do you want to pursue dentistry?
Yeah, the reason why I chose dentistry, it kind of started when I was younger. My grandma was diagnosed with early onset Alzheimer's, and she moved in with us. And growing up, I helped care for her, and I kind of saw firsthand how much a disease like that became a barrier to her oral health and receiving oral care. And she ended up, losing a tooth. And it just was a really kind of traumatic thing and experience I saw growing up. And that kind of opened my eyes to dentistry. But then when I started actually shadowing, I realized that dentistry, I always wanted to go into healthcare. And dentistry was a way not just to fix something, fix teeth or fix a problem. It was a way to really be that comfort person and to show compassion and care and to kind of be there for people who can't necessarily help themselves. I think I kind of fell in love through dentistry, through pediatrics. That's when I started shadowing, and then fell in love with the technical aspects through shadowing general dentists and seeing more of the root canals and prosthetics. I think it kind of just combined everything that I wanted in a profession to have that artistic, hands-on, while also being that person that can really help someone. It's kind of cheesy, but I feel like that's, just kind of combined everything.
That's awesome. And it's very genuine. And I love that you probably started things out with that very personal anecdote to you and your own experience. I think that's what people have to find, because a lot of us do like dentistry for the same reasons. So it's how are you going to stick out and make an impression on the person reading it to let them know who you are beyond maybe all of the commonalities that people in dentistry might have with each other.
Exactly. I feel like at first I was like, well, I can't say I want to help people because everyone says they want to help people. So, but if it is cliche, but if that's your reason why, that's your reason why. I feel like that's kind of what I ended up realizing. It's like, I'm not going to go ahead and make some elaborate thing up. That's not true to me. So I feel like that's just really important when you're thinking about your why, because it can be tough. I mean, there could be 10 things why. We got to narrow it down to one.
Definitely. And are you thinking you maybe want to pursue pediatrics depending on your experience throughout dental school?
I do really love kids and stuff and working with the younger generation. I kind of just want to see what I end up liking when I actually go in, because general dentistry has a lot of other aspects too that I really love. I think cosmetic is super interesting. Also, there's just so many aspects. I'm not exactly sure what I'll enjoy or maybe what I'll even be good at. So I think it'll be kind of interesting to get hands-on and then see. So I kind of just keeping the door open and see where it takes me.
Very fair. And I mean, every dental school runs a little differently with how much exposure you get to different types of specialties and what you'll get to do. So hopefully your program will give you adequate experience in everything. That way you can figure out what you really want to do. And the nice part is, I mean, you can always just start working and then you can always still go specialize or just take a bunch of courses in something and kind of niche down. That's like, as we know, one of the cool things about dentistry. So letters of recommendation. How did you go about making sure that they would be strong letters? How did you go about asking professors, dentists?
Yeah, that's definitely a stressful part. I think I didn't start thinking even about letters of rec until the second semester junior year, right before I was going to apply. And I had really never gotten close to any of my professors. I mean, my chemistry class has like 400 students in it, so the teacher didn't really know me and I didn't know them. So it was kind of hard when I was trying to think of who I was going to ask for letters from. I decided to try to get really close to my professor that second semester junior year. I decided to start going to office hours because I knew I needed to try to get a professor to know me to be able to write a strong letter in my favor. So I think that really helped. I ended up going to office hours every week and just kind of really investing in the course. And I ended up asking that teacher towards the end of the semester for the letter of recommendation. And I'm pretty sure that was a strong one. I think when you actually get to know a professor, it will be a lot better. And then that was one of mine. Then the other one, I did have to email a bunch of old random professors and try to like kind of B was a little bit desperate for one. I got a lot of no's. I got some saying I could write you a simple outline letter, and I wanted to make sure it would be something good. And then finally I got one of my old OChem professors to write one, and he was actually very detail oriented. He emailed me an entire spreadsheet to fill out like all my questions of my why and my experiences. And so I ended up sending him like a 10-page paper basically. So I think that one hopefully was also strong, even though I didn't know the professor. He did a good job of getting a lot of details on me. So I think, honestly, if you find a professor who's willing to write you one and you don't think they know you very well, I think it'd be good to send them your CV, send them your like personal statement or anything that you can that can give them a little glimpse of who you are. And then I used Interfolio to store mine, which was kind of nice. It was easy to get them earlier. I gave them like a month earlier deadline than when I actually needed them, because I've heard of some horror stories of people not being able to fly because they couldn't get the letters in on time. So that's kind of what I did for mine.
It's just exactly the same as it was years and years ago for me. I mean, I guess you can't reinvent the wheel, right? A very similar experience, and also like using Interfolio and all of that. So it's good to know those things are still valid resources. And at this point, we've covered a lot of the elements of the application, I guess, other than maybe like school-specific prompts. But if someone's thinking about they're filling out ad test soon, I know the soft opening's probably coming up in a couple weeks here from when we're recording. Any just general advice for filling out the application itself? Anything you thought was confusing or resources that you used?
Yeah, I think it was pretty time consuming. I think mine opened like May 14th, and then you have a couple weeks to work on it before the actual submissions open. I think the part that kind of took the longest and everything that I didn't expect was your experiences portion. You don't just list your experience in the hours, you write like the text box basically explaining everything. And I kind of took that upon myself to really go really in depth and explain not just a simple, I shadowed Dr. Blank and saw this. I really tried to take what I learned from the experience and really tried to make each one impactful. So those took a really long time because I had a lot of experiences to do. I think transcripts, entering in your exact grade, you have to basically you type in the full name, you enter your grade, the grade points and everything. The transcripts took a lot longer than I thought. And then something I didn't realize would take a while was requesting your transcript from your college. I didn't realize that you had to request it early and wait sometimes a couple weeks for them to get your transcript to you, in the case of mine. So that was something I wish I would have done earlier. Trying to think. Oh, I didn't know that there was a program materials section in the terms of, I didn't realize some schools would have excess prompts like, tell us why you're artistic, or tell us why this school. So some schools had specific questions that they had just in a separate portion of the portal that I didn't realize. I went to hit submit and it said you didn't fill in your program materials. So that took me another couple days. I think just try to keep exploring the portal. There's a bunch of different parts of it. You'll have your academic, your experiences, the program materials, and I think your testing. Those are all the sections in it. I think just start it early. Make sure you give yourself enough time. You don't really want to rush filling it out.
Llegaron los nuevos McCrispy Strips, listos para aventurarse en la mezcla de mayo ketchup, la barbecue que quedó en el fondo de la cajita, hot fudge sundae y en la nueva creamy chili McCrispy Strip dip. Los nuevos McCrispy Strips, ahora en McDonald's. Para pa pa pa.
It's summer. Time to enjoy long days, lazy nights, and great food. Because Uber Eats has deals all summer long. So, when hunger strikes, don't sweat it. Delicious deals are just a tap away on Uber Eats. Enjoy all your favorite grocery items delivered straight to you. Get ice cream, soda, and snacks from your favorite stores like Wegmans and CVS and make the most of every moment. Now that sounds like a good summer. Order now on Uber Eats. Terms apply. Product availability varies by region. See app for details.
And picking where you wanted to apply, what was your strategy with that?
I mainly went on location. I knew that I wanted to stay pretty much in the West Coast, and I was wanting to be in a state like Arizona or California, Colorado, Utah, Oregon. Those were pretty much the main states that I applied to. I didn't do a ton of research into the schools until I actually got interviews at them. So I feel like if you're someone who really, I don't know, for me, location was really important. So then when I got the locations and when I got the schools I was accepted to, then I really deep dove into, the curriculum, the cost, the clinical experience. So that was something that I ended up doing later. But I know some of my friends did the ADIA Dental Explorer, I believe, and they went really in depth to who's in their class, just every single little thing about the school. They did that research before, so I kind of did it after. But I going back, I probably wish I would have done a little bit more research into each one, so I'm not just throwing away extra money to schools that I'm actually not interested in.
And I mean, you were a little busy though, trying to do your DOT and the application all at once. So I get it. You kind of just were like, I would be okay moving to these places. I'll figure it out later from there.
Yeah, for sure.
So how was your interview process? Was everything in person? If you're comfortable, I don't know how much you share about specific schools or things, but whatever you're comfortable sharing, I would love to know.
Yeah, the interview process was, I think, like the most nerve-wracking to me. I was just so scared that the schools like wouldn't like me or this and that, or I would just freak out. I get super choked up and like ramble a lot. So I kind of was scared that I would just do that because it's such a high pressure interview. I did a whole Google Doc and I put a bunch of like basic questions and stuff and bullet points as to what I would like respond to the question or ideas I would want to hit, and I would practice that. That's kind of what I used to interview prep. I know Student Doctor Network, for a lot of the schools, people will go on there and write some questions that they've gotten in the past, and so I used that a lot, and I did find that a lot of them were pretty similar to some of the questions I did get asked. But I think it's just so important to be yourself and try to not to feed them any lies or try to, I don't know, I think they see right through that stuff because I interviewed at 5 schools and I got accepted to 4 and waitlisted at 1. And the one I got waitlisted was my first ever interview. And I remember I went in there and I don't even remember what I said. I think I pretty much blacked out. It's so nerve-wracking. I think you really build it up in your head to be this super scary experience. But in reality, they're just trying to get to know you. They just, want to see if you actually are the person that you're saying on paper and if you actually want to go to their school. I would say just be yourself and don't say anything like that's not true to you. I remember in one of my interviews, I got asked, what's the most recent dental article that you've read? And I'm a pre-dental student. I'm not out here reading dental articles all the time. And I told them, I don't ever read dental art, or I didn't say that. I said, I haven't read a dental article, but I actually listen to dental podcasts. And I actually mentioned your podcast in the interview, which is so funny, but I talked about that. And that's just something that I feel like you shouldn't I could have tried to lie or say something random, but I think just don't lie, just be yourself. It'll all work out.
Definitely. And I like that you had the interview skill to reframe the question and spin it back around into something positive. That's always good to work on. And another thing I was thinking while you were talking, I'm blanking on what it was though. We were talking about interviews and you had a few schools, you had a wait list. Oh, one of the tips back when I was interviewing, because you were mentioning your first one was maybe not your best one, hard to say, but based on the results, potentially not. Advice that I had received was if you get the choice and you have multiple offers with multiple dates, try to get your least interested school as the first date. And that's what I did. I had one at the end of August that, I mean, it wasn't like I'd be unhappy to go there, but I thought I might get into a different program, which Michigan was my top choice at the time. So it wasn't Michigan, and it just allowed me to kind of shake the nerves off. And obviously every school is very different. And if you really want to get into a program, you're still going to be really nervous, but just getting like a dental school interview out of the way from somewhere that you don't care about as much is nice if you are afforded that opportunity to kind of make your own interview schedule.
Yeah, for sure. I definitely agree. It was one of the ones that I wasn't as excited about. So I'm glad that it was that one and not like my top school. Yeah.
Sorry, I have a little bit of a cold if you couldn't tell. So, of the schools that you interviewed at, was everything in person? Did you do like school tour, student panel, all that kind of experience?
Yeah, I interviewed most of them were in person, and then only one of them was virtual. I interviewed at Midwestern Arizona, AT Still in Arizona, OHSU, USC, and the only one that was virtual was OHSU, which I thought that was more comfortable just to be at home, but it made me not as excited about the school because I didn't see it or feel what it would be like there. I really preferred actually going in person, even though it was more nerve-wracking. Um, Let me see, Midwestern was panel. They have a faculty member and then someone on the admissions board usually, or someone else like a higher up faculty, and then a student that sits in, which I thought was really interesting with the student. Roseman in Utah. Actually, I don't know if I mentioned this one. I interviewed at Roseman in Utah as well. They had a faculty and a student. USC does a PBL type of interview. So it was like they do their problem-based learning type of thing, and they have a proctor observe you. And then OHSU was 2 faculty. So that was kind of it was a whole mix of stuff, but everything was pretty similar besides the PBL at USC. I think that was just like the most different. And I don't know, it was kind of hard for them to gauge, I feel like, who I was by just watching that. But I kind of liked being able to express myself a bit more in the other interviews.
Definitely. And we actually connected through your TikTok that I feel like you started to gain your audience from your acceptance day video that you made, which is so fun. So tell us a little bit about like what acceptance day was like for you, and after you ended up getting these multiple acceptances, how did you ultimately pick the school you're going to?
Yeah, acceptance day was amazing. We actually did it. I was in Florida and we were doing a early Christmas with my whole family that day. So it was kind of, I don't know, it fell on like a cute date and everything that I was going to be with all my family. And it was pretty nice. The night before, I decided, I'm like, okay, I'm not going to look at anything. I'm going to turn off my email notifications, not look into the AdSAS portal until like I'm sitting with all my family the next morning. And it was like 10 p.m. and I was in Florida and I didn't realize, I wasn't thinking of the time change, and I was going in my email and I saw my first acceptance come through because it was being sent out at midnight time of the school. And I kind of immediately was like, oh my God, I got in. But I honestly, it kind of was nice that I saw that first acceptance because I had so much peace of mind going to bed that night. I wasn't freaking out. Like, I probably would have not slept that night otherwise. So that was kind of nice. And then I kind of hid that all from my family the whole like Christmas morning that we had. And we were all sitting there unwrapping presents, and I get a call on my phone and I see that it was the Arizona area code. And so I open it, I answer it, and I put it on speaker for all my family. And it was my acceptance from Midwestern Arizona. So it was super exciting. It was just a fun day of celebration. And then I just opened my emails and saw some other acceptances roll in. So it was kind of just a surreal day, honestly. I feel like it just doesn't feel real. You're waiting so long just to get into one school that just being accepted to multiple programs just didn't even feel real to me. It was so exciting.
Well, congrats to you again. Mm-hmm. Obviously, that was months ago, and now you're graduating in a couple days. So even more congratulations. So exciting. I remember that time too. It was just the best. And then you go through that last semester of senior year, just like really soaking it all in. Like, obviously you're still going to try and everything, but it's just a lot different not having as much pressure on yourself, knowing that you already are accepted. So how did you end up picking the school that you'll be attending?
It was really hard, honestly. Kind of like I was saying, you're just focusing on getting in. You don't really think about having options. So I think like that first week, I was just kind of freaking out, didn't know what to do. I was like, my mind was going in every direction because I saw different like chapters and opportunities at each school. I could just see different experiences. I ended up narrowing it down between the Arizona schools and the California school because those were just the locations that I would like to be the most. And I've always wanted to move to California and could see myself residing there in the future. So that was a big pull that way. I think I really had to take the locations out of it and just compare simply the curriculum, the clinic, the culture and really just see where I could see myself fitting in most. And I ended up deciding to go to Midwestern in Arizona. And I could just really see myself fitting in there the most. I've been to their pre-dental day, and I just feel like I had a good sense of their culture, and I kind of felt more at home there than everyone else, or than everywhere else. And I really want to be involved in like the student government and just get the most out of dental school that I can. And that's the place where I could ultimately see myself kind of flourishing. So I'm super excited.
I've heard really good things about their program, so that's very exciting, as you said. So, I mean, you already talked a little bit about some of the things you're looking forward to with dental school starting, but it's probably hard to really think about it when you're just trying to get through finals and graduation and everything. But is there anything else that comes to mind that you're looking forward to when it comes to dental school?
I'm just really excited to meet new people and just make new friends in dentistry. I feel like I have some pre-dental friends now, but it's not the same as I feel like in dental school will be. You'll kind of be trauma bonded to everyone, I feel like. Just everyone's going through the same thing. Kind of, someone described it as it's like you get on a ship together for 4 years, and then that's you guys just have each other. So I'm super excited for that. And just kind of to grow kind of as a person. I feel like it will be really challenging because undergrad the classes were challenging, but I feel like dental school will be like a whole new rigor on its own. So I'm kind of just excited to kind of grow and just see how that all is, and then just kind of actually being able to do the dentistry. I feel like so long we worked towards it, and then actually being able to be in sim lab and everything will be so much fun. I feel like I just can't wait.
I love that you're focusing on all the positives, like acknowledging, yeah, it's obviously going to be hard, but this is what you wanted and worked for, and you'll definitely be able to handle it. I can tell you've got a great head on your shoulders, and you seem very intelligent, so I know you're going to do great. Before we kind of wrap up here, I don't really want to end on a negative note, but maybe try to spin it for how you worked through it. But what were some of the bigger pre-dental struggles you had over your years of undergrad, and how did you work through it?
I feel like the pressure that I put on myself was by far the worst thing out of everything. I think you're just so hard on yourself. At one point in time, I felt like the DAT and getting accepted to dental school basically defined my whole life. You know, I placed so much emphasis on this, and I feel like I lost balance for a little bit. I think it's super important to try to have outlets, have your friends, your family, your significant other, or someone else that you can kind of talk to and kind of re-level yourself during this time, because it's so hard. And it's easy to get lost in it all. So I think that's one thing was the hardest. And also just kind of having so many questions and being clueless about a lot of things. I think I was reaching out to so many people just trying to ask, like, how do I even apply for the DAT? I had so many just stupid, simple questions. And I think just another thing is it was hard to find times to study when I wanted just to be with my friends a lot or just go experience college life. I think it's hard to kind of remember that, you know, what you're doing this for and the end goal. I feel like it gets lost sometimes when you're like, I have 3 exams this week and all my friends are going to the movies or something. I think it's sometimes hard to see that end goal. So I think just trying to remember the end and not so much put so much pressure on yourself is just really important throughout it all.
It takes a lot of strong will and mental toughness to not let yourself get in a dark place when you're dealing with a lot of that pressure and comparison and everything. But it's all worth it. And here you are living to tell the tale, like I said, all excited to start dental school. I love it. I'm so, so happy for you. And thank you so much for your time and sharing your journey. If people want to connect with you on TikTok, what's your handle? And then I don't know if you have any other socials you're kind of working on growing, but feel free to share them.
Yeah, my TikTok is at Your Favorite Tooth Fairy, and it's spelled with UR instead of the normal spelling of your, but I have that. And then I also just started an Instagram at the same handle, Your Favorite Tooth Fairy. But yeah, I'm really excited just to share my kind of pre-dental journey on there, or now dental journey, because I feel like seeing these content creators who are in dental school, I would watch them, and it kind of made me more motivated to do it and realize that, you know, it's possible. You can have balance. And I kind of want to be able to show that you can, you know, do dentistry and do all this stuff, but also have like a complete life. That dentistry is, you know, it's amazing and it can just be part of your life. And I'm just kind of excited to share my journey on there.
Well, Paige, I love that. We're very aligned in those ways. That was a big thing that I tried to show throughout dental school too. So I'm glad that it's passing the baton onto someone new. And I'll definitely be sure to link all of your stuff in the description of this so people can easily get there and connect with you. And thank you again so much for your time.
Yeah, thank you so much.